Hey, 3DP UK here. I've had quite a few comments and requests as to how you can probably solve some layer shifting. Obviously there could be a number of different issues there. What you do want to do when you build any 3D printer, whether it be the Anycubic Cobra Plus or the Cobra Max or any printer in general, straight from the factory you always find that a lot of the builds are loosely tightened, especially when you receive them. Most printers now only really need the gantry added to the base. Now what that can do is give you a false sense that everything else is perfectly tightened. Now however, 9 times out of 10 they can be, but there's always that percentage where they're not. So my suggestion is to always go around the whole build and just tighten up all the bolts. Just make sure, you know, in the end of the day, you can't take into, you don't have to assume that someone else has done it. So yeah, my suggestion is definitely check that. In answer to some of the other questions, now the tension belts, these are great to have. The tension belt tighteners, sorry, these are great to have, but once again, because you're able to make these changes so readily now, whereas before that it wasn't so easy and people were sort of 3D printing parts to be able to do that, but I say most of the average users wouldn't have that opportunity to tighten up the tension belts. Now these printers are actually implementing these into the builds more often. I'm finding that people are either over tightening them or under tightening them. Now what I found the other day was on this Cobra Plus, which is much like the Cobra Max, is that when I undone the tension, so if I undo it, it quite freely moves. There's a bit of a judder, but not much. But obviously you can get a slip on that. Now if I over tighten it, I'm just tightening it up now. Now I'm at the most tightest point. See, that's not too bad. There's a bit of a judder there. Now what I found was when I was printing, that if you have it too tight, you're in danger of it possibly slipping, or the belt over time will wear quicker. So you need to be careful not to put too much tension on it. So I always say go tight on it and then loosen it off maybe 1 1/4 turns and just check it. So it's still moving freely. You should be able to move it with one finger. You shouldn't have any tension there. Yeah, I know they're called tensioners, but they're to get the right amount rather than as much as possible. I also found that the bearings make some, you know, funny squeaky noises. Sometimes that could indicate that they are too tight. But once again, just loosen off a bit, and the squeak will either disappear or it'll just be not as bad. Use dry lube spray on that, not WD-40, but they do a WD-40 version of dry lubricant. Just spray the wheels, don't spray the belt, just spray the wheels, give it a little spray. It should back that off. Now what I did notice, if you over tighten the eccentric nut on the wheels, the runner wheels, which is on this, and on the Cobra Max is on the bottom. So if you have that too tight, what I was finding when the wheel was going, when the actual filling head was moving across the gantry, you get like a judder. I mean, I'm getting it kind of now, but that's just, it's very rare that you'll be traveling printing that quick. But yeah, so just make sure you don't over tighten and also don't under tighten. So as you can see right now, this head, there's no movement at all apart from the fact that I'm moving my hand over it, but not to the point where I can hear a knock or a wobble. So that's perfect, really. Now like I say, tighten it up, not too tight, bring it down a little bit, maybe 1 1/4 turns off full tightness. You should be able to hear like just a small guitar sound. Yeah, and also on the Cobra Plus, the eccentric nuts are on the right hand side, but there's only one runner wheel, so runner gantry on this one. So on the Cobra Max there's 2. Make sure they're tight. and make sure it's square as well. So what I always suggest is just push it back all the way to its furthest point and eyeball it. Bring it forward slowly, eyeball it that your bed is running parallel to the gantry itself. So like for instance, if it's say 3 or 4 mil on each side, that it's kind of running at 3 or 4 mil all the way from front to the back, and that sort of says to you that the actual bed is parallel. You've got to remember that you're putting these on, the beds on by yourself. It only needs to be slightly off. Not that it should make too much of a difference, but if you get like a knock on something and it's not quite square, so you've got to remember that you're printing fine detail prints that is going to show more of this, the issues with the runner bed or the tension or the eccentric nuts. So just take your time when you're setting up these machines. Yes, they are readily set up now, but there are some fine tunings. You do need to make sure that you fine tune your machines. You can't just expect it to run straight off the bed. Now, saying that, I didn't have a lot to set up on this machine, and I didn't have a lot to set up on the Cobra Max, but that's not to say that it's the same for everyone. Remember, these are factory installed. The more that they sell, the more they're trying to get out as quickly as possible. I mean, Anycubic, for me, their standards are fairly high anyway. I've never had an issue with any of the Anycubic brand, but you know, like anything, different people, different faults. So yeah, I just thought I'd do a quick video on that. Once again, just check your tensions. Don't over tighten it. Over time, these will snap if you're not careful. It's not as tight as you should have it. It's just getting that right tension, that everything moves nice and square and there's no judder, and yeah, you're good to go. Well, anyway, like and subscribe. I'm Phil from 3DP UK, and I'll be bringing content, just quick little videos and unboxings over the next few months. Keep an eye out. I really hope to keep everybody interested in my videos, but don't forget to like and subscribe, because obviously these things help. And if you have any comments or any questions, drop them in the comments box, and I'll either do a video on it or I'll reply as quickly as possible. Have a great day, everyone.